A new trend, Quadrobics, also known as therianthropy. Goodness, how do you even pronounce that? It's when people not only dress up as animals, but also move around on all fours, make only animal sounds, attack and bite others. In short, they display typically animalistic behaviour. What exactly is this phenomenon? Is it yet another test of whether people are still in their right mind? Or is it the work of the people of chaos? Or perhaps these are the souls of animals reincarnated in human bodies? No, colleague. In this case, your very first assumption was absolutely correct. What we're looking at is an experiment, and it's not people themselves being weighed, but the outcomes of the system that shaped them. And how is a system to be weighed? By its results. In other words, by the people. People were expected to accumulate a certain existential volume, to form a particular worldview, and to reach a specific level of consciousness. And this outcome must be weighed. But how can it be weighed properly and thoroughly when fakes are everywhere? And egregorial systems have become highly skilled at artificially inflating the existential volume of those utterly unworthy of it. And so, it has become necessary to bring people into a state in which their true nature is revealed. And how can they be brought into such a state? Through provocations. Whenever we need to determine whether an organism carries a particular bacterium, we take a biological sample and subject it to a series of provocations. In other words, we introduce a virus or another provocative agent. And the test subject then reveals itself from a particular angle. Not so long ago, we were given a detailed explanation of what Overton windows are and how this entire mechanism works. People listened and thought, well, that's interesting. Who would have thought? Then scratched their heads and carried on with their lives. But now, those Overton windows have been thrown wide open from all sides for everyone. Wherever you look, those who once claimed to value freedom above all else have brought immense terror upon themselves, and are now being called upon to defend that freedom. As it turns out, things are not quite that simple. The children who grew up in freedom, that so-called unspanked generation, instead of using their liberty to develop and express their creative potential, despite having every opportunity to do so, chose this, to dress up as animals and go around biting strangers. Those who once shouted loudest about tolerance are now displaying astonishing levels of intolerance. And those who once suffered genocide, when placed in the appropriate conditions, are now committing genocide themselves. This is a test, a provocation designed to produce results. And let me repeat, it is not individuals who are being tested in isolation. What is being tested is people as the product of a system, and what is being evaluated now is the system itself. It is now standing before its final judgment. Moreover, those who have shown instability in the face of these provocations are receiving their corresponding existential volume, which is being adjusted based on the outcomes of these provocations, and that, in turn, will be their personal result. Therefore, everything you see happening now, even the most horrifying things, is nothing more than a consequence of this social experiment. And by the way, your first question touches on the same point. To what extent have people managed to form a profound moral foundation that stops them from harming the weakest and most vulnerable? Unfortunately, they haven't. In most cases, they simply haven't developed one. At this point, humanity has been given a failing grade, a flat negative evaluation with no room for appeal. It's not just a case of making some improvements or putting in a bit of effort to fix things. That simply cannot be done. The threshold required for a person to be recognized as a truly rational being, worthy of independent existence, is one that humanity has, unfortunately, not even come close to reaching.